The rehearsal room had gone silent. The kind of silence that doesn't come from focus, but from shock. Only a few seconds earlier, Sam Heughan had thrown himself into the climactic confrontation of Macbeth, his energy raw and feral. Opposite him, Lia Williams, Lady Macbeth, had been equally intense. The two of them had worked together for weeks, pushing each other deeper into character. But this time, something snapped. "He crossed the line," one crew member whispered later. "You could feel it in the air." It had started as a normal afternoon. The director had asked for more emotion, more danger. Sam took that as a challenge. His reputation for full immersion acting was legendary. He became the role. When the scene began, he was no longer Sam. He was Macbeth, haunted, desperate, unpredictable. Lia matched him word for word, movement for movement. Their chemistry was undeniable, electric even. But halfway through the scene, when Macbeth's paranoia turns violent, Sam's intensity shifted from performance to something unnervingly real. He stepped forward too suddenly, his hand brushing Lia's arm, not roughly, but close enough to make her flinch. "Cut," the director shouted. But Sam didn't stop. He delivered another line, eyes burning, voice low and trembling with emotion. It was powerful, visceral, too much. Lia froze, unsure if he was still acting or losing control. When he finally stepped back, the room was tense, the air heavy. Lia turned away, shaking. "I can't," she muttered, before leaving the rehearsal space. The sound of the door slamming echoed like a gunshot. Everyone in the room stood in stunned silence. Sam, breathing hard, stared at the door for a moment before rubbing his temples. "What just happened?" he asked quietly. No one answered. For the rest of that day, rumors began to spread across the theater. Some said Sam had gotten too physical. Others claimed Lia had overreacted. But those who had been there knew the truth wasn't that simple. It wasn't about aggression, it was about boundaries blurred by art. Later that evening, a lighting technician recalled seeing Lia crying in the hallway, her phone clutched tightly in her hand. She said she felt humiliated. He told a friend that Sam didn't realize how far he went. Meanwhile, Sam stayed in the rehearsal room long after everyone had left. He replayed the scene again and again in his head, trying to understand where the moment had gone wrong. He'd always believed that true acting meant disappearing into the role. But tonight, for the first time, that belief had hurt someone else. When Lia didn't return the next day, the whispers became headlines within the theater walls. The stage manager called a closed meeting, urging everyone to remain professional and avoid gossip. But it was too late. The tension was visible in every glance, every hushed conversation. "Did he apologize?" someone asked. "He tried," another replied, but she wouldn't talk to him. Outside the theater, the press had started circling. A journalist from a London tabloid caught wind of the story, framing it as a heated altercation between two stars. The words, "crossed the line," appeared for the first time in print, quoted from an unnamed source said to be close to the production. When Sam saw the article, he felt a chill crawl down his spine. Crossed the line. It was the phrase that could destroy a reputation in a single day. He wanted to speak to Lia, to explain, but she refused to meet him. Through the closed dressing room door, he said softly, "It wasn't supposed to go that far." There was no response, only silence. The director tried to smooth things over, telling both actors to take a break. But Lia was shaken. "It wasn't acting anymore," she said quietly to one of the costume designers. "He forgot it was me standing there." By evening, half the crew had heard the story, and the other half had their own versions. Some defended Sam fiercely, saying he was just in character. Others sided with Lia, arguing that art should never come at the cost of comfort. The production, once filled with excitement and ambition, now felt divided. A few days later, someone leaked another detail to the media. Lia Williams had reportedly left rehearsal in tears after Sam Heughan's performance became too intense to handle. The headline spread like wildfire. Fans of both stars flooded social media, demanding answers. Some accused Sam of unprofessionalism. Others called the story exaggerated nonsense. But the damage was done. Inside the darkened theater, Sam sat alone on stage, staring into the empty seats. The echoes of their argument still hung in the air. He whispered one of Macbeth's lines under his breath, the irony not lost on him. False face must hide what the false heart doth know. He had always thought it was just a line from a play. Now, it felt like a mirror. And somewhere across town, Lia Williams was preparing to speak out, ready to tell her version of what really happened behind those closed doors. The following morning, the theater woke up to chaos. The tabloids had exploded overnight with headlines that screamed. Shock claim. Lia Williams says Sam Heughan crossed the line during Macbeth rehearsal. By the time Sam arrived, photographers were already waiting outside the stage door. Flashbulbs flickered like lightning. Questions hurled at him from every direction. Did you touch her? Are you suspended? Is the show cancelled? He didn't answer. He just kept walking, head down, jaw tight. Inside, the atmosphere was suffocating. Crew members avoided eye contact. The director was on the phone, pacing furiously. Someone whispered that Lia had given an exclusive interview. Within hours, her words hit the internet. Calm, measured, but firm. I respect Sam as an actor, she said, but during that rehearsal, he went beyond what's acceptable. Acting requires trust, and in that moment, that trust was broken. Her statement set social media on fire. Fans divided instantly. Some applauded her courage. Others accused her of exaggerating, claiming Sam's method, style was being misinterpreted. Twitter threads dissected every rumor, every photo, every quote. Meanwhile, Sam stayed silent. He met privately with the director and producers. The conversation was tense. You have to say something, one of them insisted. Silence looks like guilt. But Sam just stared at the table. If I speak too soon, he said quietly, it'll sound like I'm defending myself instead of listening. Still, the pressure mounted. Sponsors began asking questions. The theater's management feared backlash. Finally, 2 days later, Sam broke his silence. In a brief public statement, he said, during a rehearsal, emotions ran high and lines were blurred. I never intended to make anyone uncomfortable, and I deeply regret if my actions caused distress. Acting demands vulnerability, and sometimes that passion can be misread. I've reached out to Lia personally to apologize. It was a careful message, but the internet tore it apart. Some praised him for his humility. Others called it a non-apology. He's admitting it, one tweet claimed. He's covering himself, another argued. And just like that, the story turned into a storm. Lia, in turn, posted a single follow-up message on her Instagram story. Forgiveness doesn't erase accountability. The words were simple, but they hit hard. Inside the theater, rehearsals were temporarily suspended. Crew members packed up quietly, avoiding conversations. Some said the show might never resume. Others believed it would return, without one of its stars. That evening, Lia sat alone in her apartment, scrolling through hundreds of messages. Hate, sympathy, anger, praise, all mixed together. She wasn't sure if speaking out had made things better or worse. What she did know was that she hadn't lied. That moment on stage had shaken her, and no headline could rewrite what she'd felt. Meanwhile, Sam stayed at a small hotel outside the city, away from the cameras. For the first time in years, he didn't recognize his own reflection. The confident actor who had once commanded red carpets now looked lost. His phone buzzed non-stop, calls from agents, friends, journalists, but he didn't pick up. That night, he replayed the scene in his head again and again. The line he'd shouted, the movement that had made Lia flinch. He hadn't meant to cross any boundary. But intent didn't erase impact. He realized that maybe, for once, passion had blinded him. 3 days later, the truth began to shift. A stagehand anonymously shared backstage footage from that rehearsal with a theater blog. The grainy clip showed the moment everyone had been talking about. And while it was undeniably intense, there was no sign of aggression, just raw acting energy between two performers caught in the chaos of their craft. The director's voice could be heard saying, "Cut," right before Lia stepped back. The internet caught fire again, but this time, the tide began to turn. "That's it," one commenter wrote. "This was blown way out of proportion." Others demanded the tabloids issue corrections. Still, the damage was done. The trust between Sam and Lia was fractured, and the production's reputation had taken a hit. When the theater finally announced the play would resume, with adjustments, it was clear that both actors had been changed forever. Weeks later, they met again, quietly, backstage, before the show's revival. No cameras, no reporters, just two professionals facing the wreckage of a storm they never meant to create. "I never wanted it to get this far," Sam said softly. "I know," Lia replied. "But some things can't be undone." They stood in silence for a moment. Then Lia added, "Just remember the difference between power and passion." When the curtain finally rose that night, both delivered flawless performances, tense, magnetic, and heartbreakingly real. The audience could feel it. Something deeper was playing out beneath the lines of Shakespeare's tragedy. As the applause thundered through the theater, Sam glanced at Lia. She met his eyes for a brief second before turning away. The scandal had burned through the headlines, leaving behind only rumors and speculation. But for those who'd been there, one truth lingered. Sometimes, in chasing authenticity, even the best actors can lose sight of where the stage ends and reality begins.